We've got some action on Polkadot. Let's check out the charts and see if there are any hints that let us know what the next move is going to be. Let's get into this. What's up, you guys? It is Carlton here, your crypto pro, and let's check out the action on Polkadot since our last update. Of course, we've got somewhat of a little bitty dump happening today with Bitcoin, with the BitMEX news, the lawsuit, and all of that kerfuffle. Is it kerfuffle or for kerfuffle? Whatever it is, it looks like it's a mess, but we don't know yet how big of a mess it's going to be. So let's just zoom in, get rid of that on the 4-hour chart with Uniswap and check out the action. So since the split happened, the 1-to-100 split, we had this little bitty flag here, which turned out to be a bear flag, big pump up, correction down, and then we crawled up this green ascending trend line until the 19th of September when we broke that trend line and fell back down to this second of these 4 support resistance lines. Now, when we zoom into the most recent action since the last update, we've just been having a good old time crawling up this line of support, this blue line here. But lo and behold, what do we have happening right here? It's a clue. If I'm not mistaken, we may have broken that trend line. So that's why my eyes are right here on this trend line. And then this might be the clue as to what we are going to see price-wise in the short term. Now, I'm not really concerned with the short term, but only for one reason. And that one reason is getting more Polkadots. So if what we see happens, I'm looking at this as an opportunity. I hope it does happen. So anyway, let's get back to this chart and I'll show you what I think is going to happen. Since we broke this ascending trend line, we have to look at where the momentum is taking us. And right now at this very point, the stochastic is right here in the center neutral zone, and the trajectory is headed downward. We see this divergence between the fast line and the slow line, slight dip on balance volume, and this combined with this nice big fat red candle and the fact that we broke this trend line twice. All right, the first time we broke it, it was just on a wick with this 4-hour candle. And this time it looks like we are forming a candle that is below that trend line. So here's what I think is possible and why. So let's clear that out. This is all hinging on what Bitcoin does. Is Bitcoin really going to take a correction at this point because of this recent news? And I think they were talking about the fact that BitMEX might be dumping somewhere around $2 billion of Bitcoin into the market. And if that happens, it's going to affect altcoins across the board, which it has. We see red everywhere. So at any rate, where could we possibly be going if we violate this line? What are the price targets? Let's just scrunch this down a little bit so we can see the overall action. And of course, we've got 3 nice clumps of former purchasing price action that have occurred. We're sitting right now around the point of control, trading below it. Point of control being at $4.46. So here's cluster number 1. Here's our upper cluster from the previous action around in this zone. And then of course we've got this little baby cluster that happened right around the time of the split. I really don't see us going back down to these levels where we will be able to pick up Polkadots at $3 or less. I don't think that's going to happen. If it does, I'm buying more. But what I do see as a possibility on the downside, on the negative side, if Bitcoin does have an aggressive correction, then we could jump back down and retest this support line that is formed somewhere around the $3.80, $3.90, somewhere around there. So if this stochastic has enough momentum to carry us all the way down in here into the oversold zone, there is a chance we could fall back down to this line. Now, we probably need to throw up some new fib circles because we do have a new swing channel that has completed, and that swing channel would be right here, this upward movement. So I might come back on the next update and throw in some new fib rings that take into account this exact section right here. And so we're going to see if those are enough rings that we see a point of confluence with this bottom support line and the price line and the fib circle rings that will get put up on that chart. Now, if we don't hold at this point, if we have a big Bitcoin correction and we hit this line and we don't hold support, who knows? We could have some action headed down to this lower line. I don't think that is as probable as finding support right here along this second baseline. So I'm thinking we'll head to this line and maybe start to bounce back up to the point of control. Now, if we zoom out again, let's turn drawing mode off and scrunch this price down and just look at the price chart just overall and not even considering all the rest of the indicators. We still have somewhat of an overall uptrend. So let's just put a nice heavy line in here. And this is our uptrend. Okay, so taking that into account, we might just continue on and head back up into this next cluster. However, it's all contingent upon holding this support right here. So there could be a chance that this is not going to violate that line. Maybe it's just a brief settling point and maybe we just bounce right up. So I'm thinking 50-50 is what happens here. And I think our chances between heading back down to this support line and bouncing up or heading to the bottom one, I think that the probability is higher for settling down on this line and seeing more boring trading action between these two channels as resistance and support. And of least probability will be jumping back down into this zone down here. And once again, it just depends on what Bitcoin does. So looking at the on balance volume, I don't see any major dumping going on. It looks like this is a pretty good level of support as far as the simulation of the institutional investors accumulating or getting rid of their positions. And as I always said, this is not something that we can really depend on. This line is an approximation. It's not real. It'd be nice if we knew what the institutional investors were doing and if we could separate these bars out as to what the general public is doing and what the institutional investors are doing. But the best that we can do is this on balance volume that just takes these red and green bars, the volume bars, and it depends on how they close on the particular time frame, on the 4 hour or on the 1 day. And then they decide, they do a little mathematical calculation, and we end up with this OBV line that is supposed to show if money is flowing in or if it's coming out. And it gives us that hint if we are being manipulated by the big shots. Okay, let's see if we can tell anything on the 1 day. Probably not much. Let's just zoom in here. So on the 1 day, it does look a little bit different. On the OBV, the volume profile, we can see everything just about the same. And the stochastic is, I got a phone call. That's a spam call. Go away. The stochastic on the 1 day looks like it's about to cross over and head south again. So this is a very weak stochastic on the 1 day, which tells me that it's more indicative of us coming down to this support line. All right, so with the on balance volume, we had the big spike up and then we had the distribution going on where a lot of profits were taken probably by those who hold the big fat bags, not us little guys. And then now we seem to be kind of leveling off in this boring little area up and down right here. So that's kind of good because if they've gotten rid of their positions at this point, what they're going to do next is load up because they're going to be the first ones that want to profit by increasing their positions after this point. So let's just watch on the 1 day to see if we can dip down into this oversold area and what the corresponding price will be up here on the price line. Where will it end up when we bottom out with this stochastic? So I'll be watching that every day, and then that will also give us a little bit of a clue if we hold within this little trading area here, bouncing between that support line and the resistance line. Now, what are your thoughts on Polkadot? Do you think in the short range we are going to make it a nice bounce on this support line? Do you think we'll dip back down and get it at the amazing low bargain price of $2.90? Or do you think we're going to sail up above and start trading within the second or the third and the fourth support and resistance lines? I'd like to hear your opinion. And also, do you think Bitcoin is going to make a major correction and go back down and fill that CME gap? Or do you think that people are not tripping off of that mental CME gap because it's nothing more than crowd contagion that makes that CME gap work? It's just a visual. It's not really anything that is based in science other than psychology. Let me know what you think. So that's about all I've got. Welcome new subscribers. It's good to see you here. Let's keep it going in the comments and see if we can make some sense of this. That's all I've got for now. Stay tuned for the next update. This is Carlton Flowers, your Crypto Pro, and we out.